Hi guys, Lindsay here with Storybrook Family Farm. Today, I thought I would take you guys along and show you the camper that we called home. If you are new to our journey, Tracy and I, we sold our home last year. We used to live in town, and we had been wanting since 2019 to move back out to the country to homestead. Um, so we had been looking for property for years without being able to find anything that was even remotely close to what we were looking for. Um, so after we had searched and searched and searched for years, we had come to the realization that the only way to be able to get a property in the country was to let go of the home that we had had in town. It was a very difficult decision for us to sell our home, especially since we had already started homesteading there. We had very fertile gardens that we had spent years composting and adding rabbit manure and all sorts of things like that to it to really create a beautiful um, ecosystem and environment on our little quarter-acre plot of land. But basically, we couldn't be satisfied with that. We had this passion inside of our hearts that said, we need to do this more. We need to do more of this. And we just have this deep love for homesteading and for farming and being back in touch with nature and living off of the land. And it seemed like no matter how hard we tried to extinguish that flame within us, including even like begging God to remove this passion from us, it just kept growing bigger and bigger and bigger to the point that it actually hurt. Like it hurt so bad inside to want something that seemed impossible to ever get, when all that you could do was dream about it and think about it and long for it and stuff. Like there was many times that Tracy and I, we would just sob because we wanted our home in the country so badly, but it seemed like there was no physical way to do it. So that spurred the camper plan. Her parents live on 28 acres of land, clearly outside of town, and we had always jokingly said about that, if things ever got rough in town or whatever, if anything bad ever happened, we'd always just come here and try to live off the land. One of those, there used to be a show called Revolution. If you have not watched it, it's a really, really good show, but basically like the entire world falls apart. The grid shuts down immediately, and it just basically shows life after that. So we had watched that show years ago when it was first on TV, and it always, had this thought in our head of, I wonder what we would do if that ever actually happened. So it just, my parents hooked us on that show and we just really liked it. So we always just, always had that in the back of our mind, not like any sort of crazy doomsdayer thing. But so we'd always jokingly said that if something like that show ever happened in real life, we would probably just come here because it wasn't that far from where we were living in town, and there was ample land to do homesteading and farming stuff on a large scale. With that being said, so last February, it was I think February 1st of 2022, we talked to her parents and said, hey, like we really want to get out of town. We can't find anything. We've been looking for years. Like, would it be okay if we bought a camper, put it on your land, so that way we could sell our house? It'd probably take a couple months for us to find something suitable, because at that point we were open to buying something with a mortgage. Like deep down, we wanted to be able to stay debt free, and use the proceeds of our house to buy land. And they were like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And we were already illegally raising chickens and rabbits and quail in our garage. The town that we lived in had an ordinance of no farm animals at all. So we had been for years already illegally harboring birds and rabbits in our garage, including a rooster. So it's kind of amazing that we never got caught with that. Anyway, somebody was definitely looking out for us. So we moved everything here, and we bought this camper, which I'm going to show you a tour of, and I started renovating it. Tracy said that the only way that she would do this with me is if I fully renovated the camper to make it feel like a home, because even though our hearts were like, oh, wishful thinking, I suppose, it wasn't much of our hearts, it was more of our heads. We were like, oh, it'll take just a couple months and we'll find something. Well, in reality, in 2 days from now, it will have been a year since we moved in here. And today is the day that the camper is going on the market. So it took us way longer than we had ever envisioned for us to find our own home. And we weren't even picky. Like, we were to the point of desperation that we were looking at houses that should have been bulldozed down, and we looked at raw land, and just the way that the market has been absolutely insanity, and like some serious big like mountains were moved for us to be able to find the place that we are living at now. It's kind of crazy because today makes it 1 month since we closed on it, and it is a major fixer-upper, but I pretty much have been working my tail off to get it done. So yeah, without further ado, here is the camper. All right, so when you first walk in, I started shooting this right from the door that you walk into. So when you first walk in, there is a sink and a countertop. I did not replace the sink and countertops. That was all standard in here. The walls, I repainted the ceiling, the walls, did the nice fancy backsplash there behind the stove. I also redid all the flooring in here. Basically, we renovated this on an extreme budget. We went to places like Ollie's and Rose's, which are, I don't know if those are nationwide stores or not. I have no idea. I just live in the sticks in Ohio, so I don't really know what's out there. But they're basically discount stores. We also went to Habitat for Humanity. So here is the living room area. When we were living in here, we had two, we called them old lady rockers. We still have them. We moved them into our house because when we sold our house in town, we donated pretty much all the furniture that we owned. Because we're like, well, it's all mismatched anyways, so we'll just start fresh. We don't have room to store this stuff. We don't have any sentimental attachments to our futon that came from Walmart. So we're like, let's get rid of it. The only furniture that we actually kept was our table, our dressers, and then we had 2 cedar chests. That was about all the furniture that we kept. So there was initially a booth right here, a second booth, but because we knew that we wanted to have more comfortable chairs than the really gross, disgusting sleeper sofa that was in here, I removed the booth, so then that way it'd be more comfortable for, because we have kids. One of them, actually now 2 of them are adults, and the youngest will be 16 next week. So we wanted to make sure that it was comfortable for essentially 3 adults living in here. So we opted for putting chairs here and here, so then that way dinner time would be much more comfortable. So we had chairs, and then under the booth, just like any other camper, has storage under there. We knew that we were never going to have a whole bunch of people sleeping in here because it's very tight quarters. The camper is 34 foot long. So it's really big in terms of a camper, but in terms of a home, to have 3 people, 3 dogs, and then towards the end we had our bottle baby goat living in here too. It got very cramped very fast. So further in, you have the bathroom, which is going to be really hard for me to film the bathroom. So there's the itty bitty tiny tub shower combo, and then I did some wallpapering up at the top just to make it look really cute. And then there's the sink and the toilet. So everything that we did in here basically was just cosmetics, just to make it so that way it would be beautiful for us to live in. Right before we sold our house in town, we actually had just got done renovating it. Everything we do is kind of on a budget. Like, we're really tightwads, and we're really good at finding really good deals because we're patient with stuff. Like this door here that's behind me, I'm in Willie's old room right now. It is actually a folding closet door that I got for $2 at Habitat for Humanity because I figured he's a teenager. He wants more privacy than just a little janky curtain that was originally here. And plus, he didn't want the dogs to keep coming in and bothering him while he's sleeping. So this camper actually is one that has the 4 bunks. There's one up top, one down below, and then across where my camera's at right now, there was another bunk there, but we cut it out so then that way Willie had room to actually be able to sit up in bed. It is very tight quarters in a camper, so there was another bunk right here, so it would have been just as wide as this cupboard is behind me, and I am not a very big woman. I don't have broad shoulders, and you can see how tight of a space this would have been to try to get dressed in. So there was a nice little closet here, and then I added a drawer down there. So then that way he could put like socks and undies and that sort of a thing inside of there. And then underneath the bottom bunks was storage, just like every other camper. Ironically, about our camper plan, Tracy and I have never gone camping together because we hate camping. We absolutely despise it. So it's kind of comical that we lived in a camper for almost an entire year. Yeah, like neither of us, like I grew up doing backpacking with my dad when I was little, and I wasn't a big fan. Sorry, Dad. Like I tried. I love nature, but not that much. I don't want to walk in. I don't even like sleeping on the ground. I like laying on the ground to meditate, but that's about it. Like I don't want to. We're in modern times. There's beds for a reason. Anyways, so and then back to where you first walk in at. You guys will have noticed a door over here. Let me just loop around through. This is what was Tracy and I's bedroom. It is very, very small. There's like no way to get a good shot. All those tiny home videos, like I don't understand how they make it look so big. It's like it must be like a special camera lens. But there's basically just enough room for a bed. We had a full-size bed in here, and it was very tight. Like there's probably 4 feet of space from the wall right here to this little opening thing there. That's for a pass-through and under the bed storage type thing that runs the width of the camper that's only accessible outside. So like to get dressed in here, we had to stand on the bed to put our pants on or lay on the bed to put our pants on. There is literally, I'll try to show it. I don't want to drop the camera. There's literally only like maybe a foot of space. So it's just basically everything was just shuffling and shuffling and shuffling. So it was extremely cramped and we made it work. Like we followed our hearts to the point that it hurt. And then when it hurt so bad we couldn't take it anymore, we basically cried out to the universe and to God, whatever you want to call the divine source that rules everything, and said, show us the way. How in the world do we get out of the situation that is causing us so much pain because we love this life so much? And this was what we came up with. So for all of you that basically say, I have this dream, or I have that dream, or I have this, or I want to do this with my life, or I want to do that with my life. The only way that it's ever going to happen is if you just leap in. Like that is literally the only way that it will ever happen for you. You can't just sit around and just dream about it all the time because it doesn't get you anywhere. We tried that. We tried doing the whole law of attraction and everything that you could possibly think of, everything you could possibly read to try to make something happen. We tried doing everything. Like there was not a single stone unturned that we tried to do to get this to work. And the same thing for years, we just kept circling back to this. Maybe we should get a camper. 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 And it took a lot of really scary, devastating things happening in our life for us to say, you know what? No, enough is enough. We are just going to do the thing that makes us very super duper uncomfortable and it's extremely scary, so that way we can stop having this heartache inside of us for a life that we know that we're meant to live. We know that we're meant to do. We just couldn't find out how to do it. So before we actually sold our house, I had actually signed up to do the farmer's market. All with the intention of, it'll just be a couple months of living in the camper. Yeah. For those of you that don't know, I make bread. I am a bread baker. I make artisan bread. I've been making it for years. That was my 2020 skill that I learned, was to make bread. And turns out I was really good at it. So you may be wondering, now where in the world did they make bread? This itty bitty little oven right here is where I made bread. For those of you that try to say your dream is not possible, that you don't have the setup for it, that you don't have the means for it, I'm here to call you out because I made our business grow from this itty bitty little oven baking 2 tiny loaves of bread at a time Sure, it took forever. Did I enjoy it? Not really. Did it make the camper extremely hot to the point that I thought I was going to die in here? Yeah. Did I make every loaf with love? Absolutely, because that's how I am. Everything that I do is with love in it. So, if you need something to motivate you, I hope that I can motivate you. I hope that our journey can motivate somebody to do the thing that scares the crap out of them, to do the thing that's uncomfortable, to do the thing that is hard, to do the thing that everybody thinks you're absolutely crazy. Like when we told our neighbors what we were doing, they laughed. Cheryl, if you're watching this, thank you for also being my favorite neighbor. Anyways, so they thought we were crazy. Like other neighbors thought we were crazy when we towed up a whole bunch of our yard to put gardens in and to plant vegetables in our flower beds and to do all these things. But people really thought we were crazy when we said we're going to sell our home, donate everything that we own to follow this dream that seems impossible. Everybody thought we were nuts. But here we are on the other side of it, and we have a home that we are living in that is larger than what we had in town. We have a barn. We have a place for all of our animals. We have 2 acres of land, and it all was done with the cash proceeds of what we sold our house for. Our dream was to stay debt-free. Even my grandma, a couple weeks before we found our house, was like, Lindsay, maybe if you just let go of wanting to stay debt-free, maybe then you'll find something. And I was like, Grandma, in our entire county, there is only one property under $100,000 with at least an acre of land. I'm like, and it is by heavy manufacturing places and an oil refinery that makes the air smell horrible 24/7. I'm like, there's nothing. I'm like, it's not that we're being picky. It's that there literally has been nothing. Literally, as soon as something would come on the market, we looked at it. We jumped on it. We made offer after offer after offer for places. And we always got outbid. And like that made us really feel like we're doing something seriously wrong. And like questioning, like, is this life really the life we're supposed to live? Is this really honestly what we're supposed to be doing? Because it felt like every door was slamming in our faces, and it hurt. It hurt so bad. Like it hurt just as bad as us living in town, begging for us to either lose the passion or be shown the way out. It hurt just as bad as that. Just constantly searching for a place that we could put roots down. And like, granted, we knew that like we could live on Tracy's parents' land for as long as it took until we found something. But we have dreams of having an orchard and fruit trees and just really sinking our roots down. And when you're living in a space that always feels temporary and is not your forever home, it eats away at you. It eats away at you bad. And like, I don't know, this video is turning into so much more than I thought it was going to be. I just thought I was going to be touring the camper with you guys. But yeah, like to be where we're at now, like I wish I could almost like give my past self a big ol' hug 1 year ago and say, listen kid, like you got a lot to learn. Like granted, it's only been a year, but the amount of growth that took place inside of this tiny little camper, this 270-ish square feet, it's insane. Like it felt for so long like it was a prison. And to now be freed of it, it felt like it was the biggest lesson that we could have ever been given. Like it was like a trial by fire living in here. To be in such close quarters with your spouse all the time and to have stuff coming out the yin yang because there's some stuff you're not going to get rid of and stuff. Like it was really hard. But what it taught us was anything worth doing is worth suffering for. Like anything at all. Like if your dream hurts because you can't have it, that means you really got to fight for it and stuff. Like this tiny little fridge, we had to make this work. And we have a mega fridge. If you watch our other videos where you've seen our new kitchen, you know that our fridge is an oversized fridge. This was what we had. An itty bitty little freezer, an itty bitty little fridge, an itty bitty little microwave, a cute itty bitty little stove that when we were moving in here, we thought there's no way in hell we'll ever be able to cook a meal on that. There's no way I could even bake bread. When we were first moving in here, I honestly thought that my days of baking bread were over, that there would be no way that I could bake it. and stuff. The first time I tried, I burnt it bad, because if you don't know how to cook on a camper stove, if you've never cooked on a camper stove, you learn really quickly that it is not accurate. The temperature is not accurate. So it wasn't like I could just walk away from it. It was, I had to sit there and monitor and use my nose, and I have a terrible sniffer, to smell if it was burning or not. And in a camper stove, you can't cook in the center of it. You have to put stuff off to one side or the other side. That's why I could only make 2 loaves of bread at a time, because if it was in the center of the pan, it would burn. The inside would be raw, the outside would be burnt. So anyways, with what I'm trying to say is that where there is a will, there is always a way. And we're living proof of that. And it was bumpy. It was rough. This winter with those cold snaps where it was, the real feel was in like the negative 30s, we were still living in the camper. We were terrified. When it was windy out, the camper would rock and it would shake, and we would lie in bed crying and begging that we would not tip over. Like, it felt like we were basically on a ship all the time. The amount that we sacrificed for our dream, it's insane. So people keep asking, like, how do you keep pushing forward? How do you still have the energy? And it's like, how do I not? Like, this passion has built up and burned up inside of me for so long. This is all I've wanted. This is everything that I've ever wanted. And we finally have it. What we've wanted since 2019 is finally in our hands. It's finally in our grasps. We finally can have goats on our own land. We finally can plant and establish an orchard that we know that we are going to harvest from. Everything that we're doing at our new place is all with the future in mind, because we know in our hearts that that is where we can plant our roots. Even when we lived in town, I felt crazy because I was still like planting fruit trees and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, I know deep inside that we're not staying here. Even though everything around us says, oh yeah, you're staying, you're stuck here. Everything inside of me said, this isn't it, this isn't it, this isn't it. But a week after we moved into that house, I told Tracy, I said, I don't think we're staying here forever. And she got mad, real mad. But that knower inside just kind of knew that that wasn't going to be home. But this wasn't home either. And we finally found our home. And now it's just, everything is just falling into place beautifully for us. The last piece of the puzzle is selling this camper, so then that way we can put a new roof on the house. Because when we finally got to our house, our budget for our home was exactly what the house cost us. And, you know, I have a piece of inside of me that always reminds me that no matter what I need, it'll always be provided for me. That like what you need the most, it'll always be there when you need it. Because my life has been that way of when I'm down and out, that's when it happens. That's when it comes in, is when everything is just basically gone to hell and back and has fallen apart and has gotten the worst that it could ever be. That's when an opportunity shows up. And it's always been that way. So when things got really, really, really hard, I clung on to that throughout my entire life, it's always been what I've needed the most, when I've needed it the most, that's when it comes in. So if you're in the struggle like I was just a month ago, just try to remember that sometimes you have to do something very difficult, like living in a very tiny space, making a lot of sacrifices for your future, to be able to be given that opportunity. Sometimes when things get the absolute hardest, when you want to quit more than anything, that's when you're at the end. So, all right. If you guys enjoy this content and enjoy this channel, please consider subscribing. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I know it was extremely long and I'm terribly sorry about that. I don't know why this ended up coming out this way, but sometimes things just got to be said, and you know, hopefully somebody can benefit from what I said. If not, well, you got to see the inside of my camper, and a lot of people have wanted to know what it looks like inside of here. It's been something that we've been kind of always hiding because, you know, not a lot of people would accept the lifestyle that we live. There's not a lot of homesteaders that are gay. There's not a lot of people that are open like we are. We're just kind of always on the edge, always on the fringe, never fitting into anywhere, just kind of always off wandering, doing our own thing. So if you like that, please consider subscribing to this channel to help us grow and to give us more encouragement to keep doing brave things like making videos and sharing our lives with you. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one, guys.